So in this week's banned and restricted announcement, LSS decided to go fishing with dynamite and done blew up the commoner format. So in today's video, that's right, it's my full commoner download. I've made images, I've got ideas, but who the heck really knows until we get it all on the table. A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my flesh and blood commoner friends, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in for what's going to be a doozy, right? So this week's Dice Commando video is going over all the stuff from the March 4th be banned and restricted. Now, all of the stuff means 4 changes, but I think anybody who's even halfway into what's going on in the commoner format, or at least has historically been going in the commoner format, knows that these 4 changes are not small changes and the ripple effects are significant. So what am I talking about? Well, on Wednesday, so it's basically 24, 30-ish hours ago, whatever it may be, we got a BnR announcement. Shocking. So I didn't expect changes to commoner. We'll take it. Net takeaways, this is awesome. But 4 changes. Rosetta Thorn's banned. Not as significant. Waning Moon is banned. Huge. Zephyr Needle is banned. Not as significant. Also not unexpected. I mean, any ban was unexpected, to be honest with you, but makes sense to be very consistent. And Ball Lightning is unbanned. That was extremely unexpected. So we go through this today. Like I said, I've got images. Now, I do not know how long it's going to be. I'm going to talk as long as I feel so. Feel free to comment below. And if you got to walk away, go walk away, come back, do the thing. Okay? I very much appreciate you being here, and we're going to talk and have fun about it. Now, I do want to pre-warn you. Again, I have a bunch of images, but not every single hero is going to be part of this. And if your hero gets left out, I'm sorry. What I'm really trying to do is capture what I see as the impacts and changes at a macro level. And I don't want to say top table level, because I don't think that's true. But remember, a lot of the things that happen at, the middle tables do impact who makes it through when you have such a wide format, right? I mean, if you have a whole bunch of Illusionists come up, even though they might not top 4, it's going to change who makes the top 4. And you get it, right? Stuff like that, okay? So I want to start off with what I think, actually, before I throw that one up, my overall takeaway from this is it's kind of exciting, right? Aria has dominated the format for the better part of 2 years now. Icelander has dominated the format for better 2 years now. The Runeblades obviously have made a recent change coming up, and so be it. And also another thing, I know the lighting's going to be all off. I don't usually shoot when the sun is sunsetting in this direction. It's the only time I have to shoot today to do this. It's the only window I have. So thank you for your patience. And again, you're probably listening on your phone anyway. So be it. And that's also good feedback that I shouldn't take so much time to do these images, but it helps me plan anyway. So give me a likey like if you do like the images. I would appreciate that. But all right, so yeah, let's go into my top 5. Or I should say not my top 5. The impacts to whom I had previously identified as the top 5. And what I mean by that is referring back to really what we're kind of talking about going into Battle Hardened Portland, right? Which remember was the first commoner Battle Hardened. So we talked quite a bit about it. And those 5 are Ira, Dash, OG Dash, Enigma, Chane, and Icelander. So those were the big 5. Now, what I've done through this is you will see the image of the hero with an arrow next to them. Either green being upwards, meaning I think they got better. Red being they didn't get better, they got worse. And then I have 3 amplitudes. There's small, medium, and large for how much of a boost I think they got. And again, this is all approximate and all estimates, but you can see here that I think Ira got a little tiny bit better. And the reason I think Ira got a little tiny bit better is because Icelander got way worse with Lightning Moon going away. Chane also got way worse with Rosetta Thorn going away. And I also think that Dash of the 5, probably, it's not that Dash herself got better, but comparatively with what she's going to run into, I believe that ultimately she probably was the net winner of the top 5. And Enigma, I think just by, attrition from a certain point of view, probably also got a little better. Probably mostly just because you know, Chane and the mixed damage and stuff really taking a hit with, you know, the mixed damage from Rosetta Thorn is not irrelevant when you're trying to keep auras on the table, right? Makes sense to me. So I do think that she got a little better. And then, you know, Chane and Iyslander, we'll talk a bit about them, but you know, I think those impacts are pretty self-explanatory. You know, I mean, Chane running Reaping Blade or something like that isn't that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but you know, the fact that he lost either Ironweave and Rosetta Thorns, anyway, we'll get into it. Now, I want to add one more into this mix, into the discussion, and that's Oldhim. And the reason I have Oldhim here is because, you know, Brody piloted Oldhim to the finals in Portland. And I have to openly admit, it's someone who I still don't think the average player is going to take Oldhim and do super great at like a commoner event, commoner armory, something like that. But it would be wrong to ignore him as, because I still don't think he's a top 5 hero, but leaving him out of the conversation in terms of the top discussion based on the only results we've seen ever from a tier 4 commoner event would be inappropriate. And I do think that Oldhim got just a little bit better. And that just a little bit's because some of the other heroes that we'll talk about from like a field standpoint, I think got way better. And I think that that might change things for Oldhim. Okay. Now let's go next into the changes themselves. So Zephyr Needle is gone. You can see again from my heroes that I have down here, I have all the ninjas and their impact. The vast, if you see a yellow bar, that is unchanged. Okay, so I don't think Katsu changes at all. Fi doesn't change at all because he was on Kadachi's anyway. Syndra, I don't really know where she's going to fall yet. I don't have super high hopes for her, but she's unchanged. Because why wouldn't, I mean, she's going to be running basically everything that, right? If you were trying to run her without her daggers, then basically just run Fi, right? And then Zen is unchanged because in Commoner, Zen runs his Kakara. Okay, now the arrows here on Ira, yes, this one's down and I had her up before. I'm trying to show the impact of Needle. Ira got just a tiny, tiny little bit worse with Needle, as did Benji. Now, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think they actually got worse, but it is true that their deck got worse without the ability to run Needle. Ira was running, in many cases, Ira was using a sideboard slot for Needle into the Dash matchup because you know that Dash doesn't have D-Reacts, right? Because Dash runs an all-mech deck. So all of their stuff is 3s. So as long as you swing the Needle on your second swing for the +1, it's unbreakable against that opponent. So that was one they were including, as well as some other matchups. Now, Benji, I think, actually might have gotten a little bit worse with Needle because with the retrieve cards, there was some, because remember, those retrieve cards also are yellow, go again, well, I mean, specifically, you know, the pick up and run or whatever it is. Not up sticks and run, but the common retrieve. I'm forgetting it right now. But it's a yellow and a blue, which work for him, right, in terms of being a 1 and a 2 with natural go again that you can pay into to get the dagger back. So I do think he might have actually taken a hit there, but unfortunately that was an archetype that we never really saw got developed because it had only been out for really a month and we just hadn't really seen that come to the forefront. But I do think, at least conceptually, he might have actually gotten a little bit worse, but compared to what else is going on in the meta, I think Benji's flat to down, I think is fair. Okay. Now, Waning Moon, this is probably the largest impact. I'm not taking away from Rosetta Thorn. I'm not taking away from the impact Rosetta Thorn's having on the Runeblades. But Waning Moon kind of just eliminates the wizard class from many points of view. You see there that Ocilio I have going up. And that's not because Ocilio got better from Waning Moon going away. He didn't. But Ocilio gained Ball Lightning, and I have to make sure that we call that out here, that Ocilio with Ball Lightning in like a low profile build, I think is pretty strong. And, you know, I'll link the video that I'm going to have to redo now, but it goes to my low profile Ocilio Commoner deck. And I had him running Moon and only a couple yellows with which to backfill. And I think I can just run Talishar and effectively do the same thing, right? Swinging 4, right? You only get 3 swings on it, but what you're trying to do, your game's over anyway, I think. So I think he can run Talishar with minimal impact there. So I don't think he actually really suffers from Waning Moon at all, at least in the probably what I believe to be the only build that actually works with Azalea. Now, Icelander, right, and Kano, again, you see the amplitude of those arrows. Now, Verdance, I think she took a hit because the commoner deck I'd been working on for Verdance was basically a 1/4 based, and she didn't have too many of them. So, it wasn't the greatest deck in the world, and that's why I don't have her going down as much. But she still has all the same problems with lack of 1/4s, but now she has to like do life gain and try and amp into it, because I think she'll play her wand. I think maybe she plays Crucible. I think she tries and plays her wand though, and then does health thing and like throws 7s or something. I think that's the play. But there's no denying that she got worse. But I mean, to be clear, Verdance was not super good, is not super good in Commoner. She's not. But I think it's pretty clear she got worse. So the Wizard class on the whole took a hit, for sure. For sure. Maybe they're getting something in, maybe there's going to be a Wizard in High Seas or something. I don't know. With a really cool weapon. I don't know. I'm just really surprised to see the massive hit here. Because Kano was getting good too. There was finally, anyway. Go into Ball Lightning. This is big. So Aurora gets a huge boost out of this. I know that Aurora, because Aurora didn't lose Thorn. She didn't, right? She wasn't using it anyway, because the whole thing was, because Briar has everything that Aurora has, and probably a better ability, and can run Earth 2. Obviously, they were playing different, but, right, like, Aurora, you want to play Starfall with her is my point, because you want her to do something different than Briar, because if you're trying to just Briar do it better, right? So Aurora got a ton better with Ball Lightning, like incredibly better. And I don't know what that final list looks like yet, but I'm confident she got better. Azalea, I kind of already preached to. Azalea is going to really benefit from this as well. Lexi also gets huge boost from Ball Lightning. Huge boost from Ball Lightning. For those of you who've been around for a couple years, back when Ball Lightning was legal, like way back in the day, like even for constructed formats, I had a deck build I called EDD, Extra Damage Dominate, utilizing Shiver, to where the idea was, 1 or 2 Ball Lightnings and then throw a dominated arrow, elemental arrow in this case, right? Where sure, maybe it's only coming in for 5, maybe you get lucky and you can pump it, but you throw the dominate and you use the dominate from Shiver, and then you land, but then you land your frazzle or whatever, and it's like ping, right? And I think that's like, I think that's got legs. So Lexi wasn't super good anyway, and I think her stock goes way up from this Ball Lightning thing. I'm going to be looking at the EDD, the Extra Damage Dominate deck with Shiver, and seeing what we can do with that. Plus, don't forget, Lexi picked up a ton of Lightning cards in Rosetta. No arrows, obviously, but like Sizzle seems pretty good with Lexi and stuff like that, right? And there was really no reason to go look at that before, or there wasn't like a huge impetus to go look at it before, unless you were like a diehard Lexi main. But like now you can go revisit that, and you have Ball Lightning at your disposal. Seems pretty good to me. And then Briar is the one where I remain very undecided on Briar, because her losing Rosetta Thorn is a big deal, but her picking up Ball Lightning is a big deal. So this is the one where I have to be flippy-floppy on. Sorry, folks, I do. And let me see if I can make this not so bright in your face here. All right, but this is the one I have to be flippy-floppy on, because I just don't know where this one's going to land, right? Will she go back and like try to do the red line builds? I think so. How often will that red line build run Rosetta now? Or, so I should say, it will never run Rosetta now, but how often will it pitch to weapon now, as opposed to just relying on, you're probably running like Sizzles and Bramble Sparks and stuff like that to try and get your embodiment token to just go wide. I think probably that's what you do, and then you have the weapon there if you've got a card left over or something. right? So I think there's a lot of advantage for her, but one cannot deny, because it used to be you'd pitch a 0/4 to swing Moon for 2/2. Why wouldn't you, right? I mean, I'm not saying like at the end of the chain, right? If you've got a 0/4 that's going to come in for 0/4 or come in for 4 with no go again, why wouldn't you just swing Moon and go 2/2, right? Pitch that card, save the card. It's the right play. Now I don't know that she does that over like probably Reaping Blade. I mean, right? So, and then that takes us to the removal of Rosetta Thorn. 6 Rune Blades, a lot of impact here, but it's interesting. I don't, there's actually some creativity here. I'm going to start on the right side because I feel like it. So there's zero question that Viserai losing access to Rosetta Thorn is like a huge crippling. I mean, he's not like super popular anyway. He's not super prevalent anyway, but there's zero question that taking it away from him is not like really bad for him. That said, it's going to be interesting. I think there's something out there with Nebula Blade build. I do. And maybe this is the impetus that's needed by like the Viserai folks to go see if they can create, right? So this might end up being like, it's clear from a pure mathematical standpoint that Rosetta Thorn is way better, right? Losing that hurts. But it'll be interesting because he wasn't like the one that he wasn't like the best Runeblade anyway. I think playing him different, getting creative with him is the answer. And I think that this will help that. So while there's no doubt that mechanically he got worse, I think this might be a net benefit for Vis and see what can come out of it. I have Florian getting ever so slightly worse because, I mean, if we're being honest, we didn't see a bunch of Florian anyway in Commoner, at least to date. He's not really playing a bunch of non-attacks. So I think Florian Reaping Blades probably where people were anyway. But like I said, I haven't really seen many. So like I said, I think just because of the fact that Rosetta Thorn, I think he got a little worse. But I don't think it's really that impactful to him. Chane, we already talked about. This is a massive deal for Chane. Very big deal for Chane. Vincent, we don't see a lot of Vincent either. I don't think this matters. I mean, to be clear, it does. Like, losing Thorn matters. And Vincent could have been doing, Vincent could have been doing like Dirge and stuff like that. Actually, so, yeah, got worse. I mean, right, definitely did. Briar, I already made the case there. And then Aurora, I think Aurora just don't care because Briar did it all better anyway. She's got to play different. So, actually, I will retract my, I'm not going to go change the image, but now that I'm looking and thinking about Vincent, yeah, it got worse, but just a little bit. All right, now let's talk Iyslander. The dethroning of Iyslander is, I don't know, is it fair to say dethroning her as a top 5? That is possible. But assuming that she does drop out of the top 5, which for certain she's going to become a lot less prevalent because she's going to be a lot less easy to play regardless of where she lands, there's a bunch of heroes that I believe benefit from this. The biggest one is Fang. So building Fang, I was actually very impressed with what he can do because he has a very, like in terms of his card pool, he has a pretty functional card pool and he can put out a lot of damage. And even though he isn't necessarily able to do like the fealty thing very easy, he still has pretty decent threats with like reacts and stuff like that. So I think Fang's pretty decent, but I was, when I was building the deck, I'm like, he just can't, like, there's nothing he can do against Iyslander, right? Well, so I think Fang's stock goes way up, absolutely way up. In a similar vein, your two-handed weapon, the best two-handed weapon warrior, Kassai, I think also goes way up here. I don't really think that's debatable. I mean, that's part of the problem was, she had to pitch her blue and swing, and then you'd either eat the resources or you'd take a bunch of damage. And it was a really, really, really bad Iyslander's a really, really bad matchup for Kassai. So Iyslander going away, I think Kassai's stock goes way up. Kassai can do pretty well against ninjas. She can do pretty well against the field, just not Iyslander. So I think she goes up. And then you also see, I actually made one for the Decimator there because this really covers both builds Dorinthea and Olympia, depending on which way you want to go. And this is another one where, you know, it takes a blue to swing. So, and you really want, it's like, especially with Olympia, you want to like front pump it or something like that. So then you front pump it, then they hit you, then you got to do the thing, and then you got to count for the frostbite. It's just too hard. It's not unwinnable by any means, because again, you have a pretty good blue curve. But a lot of times you're not doing anything, and then that lets them set up like the Wounded Bull and then the Smack, right? And then what are you going to do? You only have 4 cards. So I think Decimator goes up as well. And then someone else coming off the boost of Hunted with all the new, I mean, there's not a ton of new tech, but there's some pretty cool cards in there out of the Hunted for Fi. And I think, you know, Kodachi Rupture Fi also goes way up because he really struggled with this. I think he's, I don't know, is he better than Fang? I was going to say his best Draconic hero. I think he's the best Draconic ninja. And Fi always like was pretty good, in my opinion. You know, but Fi runs up against the ninja problem. It's like, well, he's not Ira. Like, well, that's a true statement, right? And it's hard to argue with that when Ira's been the best forever. And to be fair, probably got a little better. So, you know, I think there's that as well. But I think in a vacuum, it's really easy to sit back and look at the changes and say, okay, well, the big 3 were Ira, Chane. It's hard to say big 3, but if you say, you know, in terms of heroes who have quote unquote dominated the format and taken down gold foils consistently, it's Ira, Iyslander, and Chane, right? Those 3. So if you say, okay, Chane took a huge hit, Iyslander takes a huge hit, it's easy to sit back and say, you know, Ira became BDIF, right? Best deck in format. And that's certainly probably true from a certain point of view. But there's a lot of other heroes now that can really move up. And, you know, I don't know whether this is going to be good or not, but I think it's going to be really fun to see how this all hashes out. Now, one last group that, and again, this is where people get mad at me because no, this is not all the Guardians. It's just these 3. I don't see Victor as being super relevant in the format because he doesn't really do his thing, right? I mean, to be fair, he can make some gold and do his thing, but like, there's nothing really to like, not consistently. So, you know, I think Betsy's better than Bravo, right? In terms of the pump and thump build. I think Bravo still probably runs the straight up Anathos value build better. So I think they're both belong on here. And then we kind of already talked about Oldhim. And I think these 3 Guardians increment up just a little bit. Just ever so slightly. I think they're still going to have the Ira problems that they have with just stabs and stabs and stabs and needing to hold cards. So I think they're going to run into that problem, but I think it's a better matchup for them overall into the field now with some of the other matchups. But it'll be interesting to see, because I think some of the heroes that will benefit from Iyslander going away also maybe can put pressure on the Guardians. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how these folks fare, but I think it's hard to argue they didn't get better, right? Hard to argue they didn't. It's just how much better. I don't think it's all that much better. So, you know, that's kind of the rundown as I see it. Those are all the images I have prepared. But in terms of like overall talking points, I think this is really cool, right? You know, if you're a wizard right now, you're probably feeling pretty bad. If you're certain Runeblades, you're probably feeling bad. But there's a lot of other hero. I mean, it's an evergreen format. Every single young hero that is of rare or less rarity is still legal and will remain so. And there's a lot of heroes that just aren't. I mean, to be clear, the expectation that every hero should be playable is not reasonable. It's just not, right? But in a casual focused format, it would be nice if some heroes weren't just auto stops, non-starters is the word. And I think that, you know, and to be clear, Iyslander's not going away, and that's okay, right? And I think that her presence made a lot of heroes kind of non-starters, and I think that her decreasing that is really good. Now, the counterpoint is, you know, Ira didn't really change, right? They didn't really modulate. She didn't really modulate. She didn't really go anywhere. You know, the heroes that were in the tier 2 are still tier 2 or better, right? For the vast majority. So, you know, is your horrible matchup, you know, is your hero that has always been kind of, you know, like a Boltyn, like, no, Boltyn didn't get any better out of this. I mean, comparatively, I guess maybe a little bit, but like, you're not going to see a lot of Boltyn out this. You're not, right? But overall, I think a lot more heroes moved up than moved down. But you can't ignore the fact that like Wizards probably feel really bad right now. So, and again, all this can get walked back. The ball lightning thing, let's go back to that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm actually really excited about this just because like my theory crafting and stuff is just going like crazy like my crazy theory crafting monkeys are going. And I really like Aurora. And like I said, I'd already been working on an Azalea fun deck and then the Lexi deck, which I'd worked on in the past and it went away. So like I'm pretty into ball lightning coming back. I think it might be a mistake, but they can always walk it back. The problem is with the regularity that we get. It's not necessarily the regularity which we get bans, but it's the regularity with which we get data that they use, which is basically the only visibility they have is what's happening at the gold foil events. And even in the before times, we saw a pretty good amount of variability in the gold foil events based on region, right? Because the people who are traveling to these events by and large aren't the ones traveling for a gold foil. They're the ones traveling for the big event. And the gold foil one pulls statistically more of your local players, right? So that's why you're prone to see more visibility in these variability, excuse me, in these gold foil events, and thus their visibility is muted. Plus it's only on calling weekends. So it's not that like, oh, well, we only get one commoner update a year. Well, that's true, but that's probably only because they don't get data on it, right? They don't see what's happening. And I think that's fair, right? So the only thing they can really do is get like Discord and community feedback. And like, you want to talk variability, depends who's mad that day and making a rant on Discord or the Twitters or the Facebooks or the Reddits or whatever, the butterflies or whatever, right? So that's even worse, right? So, you know, it'll be a bit, and we'll see. It could go out of control on us. And if, you know what, if a whole bunch of you want to like do a campaign or something, you probably can do it. Like, we know they watch the social medias. So anyway, be very interesting. How long have we been here? Oh my God, almost 30 minutes. So let's wrap this up. Most of the commoner people click for a minute and get the deck list and go away. And there's no deck list today. I don't know, whatever. It was good for me to have this chat, and let me know in the comments what you're thinking. Hopefully you have been along the way. But it's going to be very interesting the next couple months in Commoner. Looking forward to it. And go Commando.